The first reason that a narcissistic woman hates being ignored is because your attention is her fuel. For a narcissistic woman, self-worth is not internally regulated. It is outsourced, and it runs almost solely on external validation. So here's what happens when you stop responding to her. There's a drop in her self-worth, and it's not a normal drop. It is a sharp and unbearable drop. And inside that drop, her brain starts screaming, am I lovable? Am I enough? Am I worthy? And that's when you'll see the sudden switch. Sweet to vicious, sad to furious, sexual to raging. And it's like she's trying all these different versions of her until she triggers a response from you. Some kind of validation that gives her relief from that shame and that self-worth crash that has been triggered by your removal of validation. The fifth reason is that your silence traps her in her own emotional discomfort. And this is the part that a lot of people don't understand about covert narcissism. It's not just that she wants attention. It's that she can't tolerate what comes up inside of her when there's no drama, no chaos, and nowhere to project all those negative emotions. So if you're engaging her, the tension has somewhere to go. She can externalize it. She can discharge it onto you through the conflict, the accusations, the urgency, the emotional pressure. But when you go silent, there's no target, no outlet, no release. So that discomfort builds inside of her. And that's why she escalates. The seventh reason she hates being ignored is that it collapses the fantasy. And there is always a fantasy operating in narcissistic dynamics. The fantasy that she is the center of the universe, that you're obsessed with her, that you'll always come back, that she's unforgettable. And as long as you're reacting, even if it's negatively, her fantasy stays intact. So when you go quiet and you stay quiet and you don't beg and you don't defend and you don't try to clear the air, set the record straight, the fantasy starts to crack. And that feels very threatening to her because a covert narcissist depends on that fantasy. The belief that she occupies a central place in your world. And when you move on calmly, without drama, without chasing, your silence communicates something powerful. I don't need you. And that hits her at her core because it contradicts the internal fantasy that she's everything to.
This video includes some clips from a narcissist guru on YouTube that I liked. One for being accurately descriptive with regard to how covert narcissists operate, but also specifically for using only female pronouns when referring to covert narcissists. This video exists to drive home the argument in the title, which is covert narcissism and both overt and covert borderline personality disorder are exclusively associated with female brains. The reason we have so much LGBTQ and everything in the world before liberals even push a population control agenda to promote it is because of what I keep explaining in all my videos, that gender dysphoria is extremely common from birth, before anyone can brainwash anyone to be gender dysphoric. It's so common it affects approximately 50% of all people born with male sexual anatomy that are born with female brains that do not match their sexual anatomy. And for women, it's less common, but still common, affecting at least a quarter of women whose female sexual anatomy does not match the male brains they were born with. The T personality women are the ones with masculine male brains, and the F personality males are the ones with the feminine female brains. And the INTP and ENTP are also feminine female brains, which is the only exception to the rule for the T types. I'm in the middle of making a video about INTP covert borderline Gerhard Koenig and his wife INTP Ariel Koenig, who would also be predisposed to borderline. And a point I'll be making in that video is that borderline personality disorder is exclusively associated with female brains, regardless of the sexual anatomy of the person. And then seeing these videos in about covert narcissists with female pronouns only made me also realize that we can go so far as to say that covert narcissism is only associated with female brains also. So INTJ Sam Vaknin, in a clip I've played many times on my channel, states that narcissism is almost always covert in women and overt in men, and borderline is almost always overt in women and covert in men. But I can tell you something even stronger that's true if you could just bring yourself to think of people's genders by their brains only and not by their sexual anatomy. So I can tell you that borderline personality disorder is exclusively associated with female brains. And additionally, covert narcissism is exclusively associated with female brains, without any exceptions, regardless of the sexual anatomy. So let's talk about what covert and overt mean in relation to narcissism and borderline and how it differs. With regard to borderline personality disorder, the overt just means outwardly expressed, obvious, without trying to keep it secret. And the covert just means inwardly expressed, less obvious, trying to keep it secret and covert. And it doesn't matter what the sexual anatomy of the person, both covert and overt borderlines only have female brains. So I can safely say without any exceptions that both overt and covert varieties of borderlines are exclusively associated with female brains. With narcissism, it's different. It's because the covert variety of narcissism is only associated with female brains, while the overt variety of narcissism is only associated with male brains. So I'm not actually going to lay out arguments or examples to support the claims in this video. The examples will be found in all of my other videos that showcase the best representations of each personality type and intersectional personality disorder. But I did put the cheat sheet in the description of this video, and I'll read it also. ISFJs, ESFJs, ISFPs, ESFPs are all born with female brains and predisposed to common covert feminine variety of narcissism, regardless of sexual anatomy. INFJ, ENFJ, INFP, ENFP, INTP, ENTP, born with female sexual anatomy, are born with female intuitive empath brains that are predisposed to overt borderline personality disorder. INFJ, ENFJ, INFP, ENFP, INTP, ENTP, born with male sexual anatomy, are born with female intuitive empath brains, predisposing them to covert borderline personality disorder and wannabe covert narcissism. ISTJ, ESTJ, ISTP, ESTP are born with male brains, and they're predisposed to common overt masculine variety of narcissism, regardless of sexual anatomy. And INTJ, ENTJs are born with male brains, and they're predisposed to outlier, overt masculine variety of narcissism, and antisocial personality, regardless of sexual anatomy.